being sold a story with particular sort of edit points. And, you know, to me that's interesting because that's what life is. You know, we have this infinite data source coming at us, and we have to kind of reduce it to stories to make sense. So I think stripping aside all the kind of vaudeville and tacky associations of hypnotists and magicians and so on, I think there's something interesting at the heart of it. I think that our storytelling capacity is kind of endlessly fascinating to me.
Well, it's fascinating in that regard, but it's also fascinating that there seems to be like some cheat code to the human mind. Like there's a way you can like lock into like an admin panel, and all of a sudden you're doing things like telling people they don't want to be smoking, or putting them into this hypnotic mindset by just snapping your fingers and saying sleep. Like it's odd. I don't think
it is that. I think it looks like that, and that's
right.
the problem, because it's you so often see it when performers are doing it, when they're often going for a kind of theatrical effect. If you go and look at it like a clinical environment where hypnosis is being investigated, it isn't like that at all. It's much more kind of boring in a way. So it doesn't have any theatre attached to it.
Right.
And it's much more, kind of intuitively understandle.
Have you been hypnotized yourself?
I'm terrible. I'm a really bad subject. I had one experience when I was in like a workshop thing that I was there as a paying person. I wasn't giving the workshop, and I was sat with the exercise was it really worked for me. It may work for others. So you split into pairs, and the idea is you start to describe a scene. So I was sat with this woman. You close your eyes. You start to describe a scene, and you go back and forth adding details. Right. So she says, "Oh, okay, I'm laying on a beach," and so I just imagine that, and I go, "Okay, I'm laying on a beach, and I can feel the warmth of the sun on my face." So I'm just kind of like imagining it and joining in with the story. And then I just remember somebody going, "Okay, guys, time up, time for lunch." And I had been on a beach. I'd completely I'd been there like a dream. It was completely real. At some point, it had tipped into that. But that's the only experience I've had of it. Other than that, I don't respond to it. I'm just not. I think it's just suggestibility. It's something about. And we get it when we get it when a doctor gives us a placebo, and we respond to that because this authority figure is giving us that, or the way we absorb opinions of people that we admire and experts that we admire, how we just more easily take those on board unquestioningly. This is all the same thing. It's just suggestion. The trouble is, most of the time it's done through the world of the performing hypnotist, which isn't giving really a very clear and fair view of what's going on.
Because it's so theatrical and so...
Yeah, because often you're relishing in things like, I clicked my fingers and this guy went to sleep.
Yeah.
But that's not really... what are they doing? Are they just kind of responding because you've just asked them to, and they know that when you click their fingers they're supposed to go to sleep? There's a real range of possible experiences that it might look like a power, but it doesn't mean it is. They might just be complying.
Yeah.
I was going to do some of this stuff on stage without using the hypnosis to show that I don't think there's anything that happens under hypnosis that can't be done without. And I was having this discussion with my friend Andy, who directs and co-writes my stage shows with me, and I was saying like that thing of when a hypnotist gets someone to eat an onion and says, this is a classic hypnotic stunt, gives them a raw onion and says, "It's a delicious, juicy apple, now eat it and enjoy it." And you get somebody munching into an onion and like having no problem eating it. And I was like, I'm sure that feels like if you're just going to pull that off without hypnosis, would that just happen anyway? And Andy said, I bet you can just do it anyway. And he went to my fridge, took out an onion, took a big bite of it, and it was fine. Because he's proving a point there, right? So he's in a different mental state than somebody going, "God, I dare you to take a bite of that onion." When suddenly you're preempting the disgust and all the reasons not to do it. But the fact that he was just going, "I bet you can do it," and trying to prove a point, meant he did it, and it was fine. So that was a different mental state, and it worked. So that wasn't hypnosis,
right.
But the end result still, if you did that on stage and pretended to hypnotize somebody first, it would look like you'd done something amazing. So I don't know. It's to me, it's just that story that someone's telling themselves.
Well, did it taste like an onion to him, or did it taste like an apple?
But it would have no. It would have tasted like an onion. There was no suggestion.
But what about with the people
else.
that are hypnotized? Does it taste like an apple to them?
Well, I don't know. It's like when I'm
Right.
invisible, what are they seeing?
Right.
I think for some of them it will, taste and pain and things like that and discomfort. It's all very subjective. But the end result of doing this thing that looks like it couldn't happen without some magical process, that's the key. And none of these things really demand that even when you look at people being undergoing surgery through hypnosis and being wide awake and being cut open, so you think, well, that must be evidence that hypnosis is some special thing because that couldn't happen otherwise. But of course it can. The layer of skin that feels pain is actually sort of quite thin. So once you get through that, when you're moving organs around, that's not a painful process anyway. Plus, very often they tend to use a little bit of like a local anesthetic anyway, just to numb the very top layer of skin. So again, what looks amazing very often isn't. It's an endlessly rich and bizarre area to me, and I kind of, as I said, I don't really think of myself as a hypnotist, but that process, that kind of ability for people to get into this space where they can have that kind of experience is something I'll always find interesting. One of the recent stage shows I did